So it's good to be back.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Nice and sunny though. Got the shorts on.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll probably regret that about 5 minutes. It's gonna be suddenly cold, but yeah, nice in here when it's sunny. It's a bit like a greenhouse, a lot of natural light. So that's great. So hopefully that's a change in the weather and it's gonna stick like it because it's been a long winter in Scotland
And a cold May as well.
I know, it's been freezing. Yeah. I know. April we had snow and stuff, didn't we? So no, it's good. Good for training and stuff as well. I think hopefully a little bit easier on our bodies to recover from injuries and stuff in the heat. So I'm looking forward to having hopefully a decent summer.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Lots of nice training. Nothing too intense.
Yeah.
As the weather gets warmer as well.
Yeah.
Lower the intensity a bit.
Yeah. You don't need to like warm up quite as much. You don't need to like keep warm. But how's your training been this week?
Yeah, it's been good. I was in Monday and Wednesday, and we've been working on the kind of guard stuff, the shoulder crunch. Is that? Nah,
we're doing a bit of that. Yeah. We're doing because the last 2 weeks we've been doing a lot of arm dragging to the back. Yeah. So from a closed guard and using it standing up to take down. And so then this week we were going into arm dragging, and then if you don't get the back, but using it to sweep, pendulum sweeps and stuff, and then trapping the shoulder, high guard, going for straight arm bars, Americanas, Kimuras, and then last night we were like seeing if we can work our way to Barata Platas and Tarika Platas, the more funky, cool stuff. Yeah. Because I'm obsessed with Barata Platas. It's basically all I do at the moment.
You catch me in them all the time.
Yeah, I think everyone's getting really annoyed.
So many.
It's like, I'm like really selfish at the moment, so I'm just doing that, trying to like, I'm really like workshopping it and trying to perfect it from like all angles, and I'm not actually teaching it, which is like bad. I've taught it before here, but I think in the next couple of weeks I need to start going right. This is what I'm actually doing to you guys. I
love them. I'd never
awesome.
been taught them before coming here, but I think they're fantastic. They're so strong, and when you get them on me, once you get the arm through and the arm isolated, then it's
hard. It's
game
hard to
over,
get out, especially when you topple them over and they're on their side. It's really hard to get out of. Like, I was playing around with them like a year ago, and I thought they were kind of fake news. I thought they're good, but I just don't think you can get the torque on them. But I've been watching people online and stuff, and you can definitely get the kind of finishing mechanics as long as you kind of know how to. It's actually harder just to set it up. You kind of think it's all from the guard, but I think getting them from top position is pretty good. But anyway, so that's what I've been doing this week. So it's been a good week of training.
Yeah, it's been great actually.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Body's just still a bit stiff. We're both
we're training last night.
Always the same thing. Training, yeah, exactly. I did double yesterday, so I was like on the Thursday morning or Tuesday morning wake up after doing 2 sessions the day before. I'm like, do I still want to do this? But we'll get onto that stuff, I think.
Yeah, well, that leads quite nicely into what we wanted to talk about today, which was like the pros and the cons of training, and both the physical pros and cons and the mental health pros and cons as well. Yeah,
they're the big 2 pillars, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we can just get straight into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I've got some notes.
Yeah, nice.
Make this professional.
We came prepared.
Yeah, so pros and cons of jiu-jitsu, or benefits and pitfalls. Sometimes I kind of refer to it as, but I think like what's important to talk about is how jiu-jitsu can be good and it can also be bad for you. Depend like anything. If you do it too much, you don't approach it in the right way, it can have negative effects. And that's the kind of thing I want to talk about a lot in this podcast, because it's all well and good going, it's great, it'll fix everything, but it won't. It will also damage stuff. So I think physical health, it depends on the starting point, right? Say we're someone who's just started jiu-jitsu. What is your starting point? So if you've gone from nothing to jiu-jitsu, so say you've gone from just sitting at home, watching Netflix, in the office all day, and then suddenly you go even 1 class a week, or let's say 2 or 3 classes a week, which is pretty good for a beginner, that's going to really affect your physical health in a good way, I think. It's going to make you stronger, fitter, more flexible, more mobile, all those kind of side effects, of even just turning up in training, burning calories and doing kind of body weight stuff while you're training, even if you're not rolling yet. So the first couple of months, say you're barely rolling and you're just doing the warm-ups and you're doing the drills, like you're still going to be activating muscles that you barely use, with dormant muscles, and I think like I've started sessions with a new person the other day, privates, and like I can see just in 2 weeks like he's suddenly benefiting really quickly, because he said he's self kind of like confessed that he's got quite a sedentary lifestyle, works and sitting behind a desk a lot, doesn't really work out, and suddenly getting into this. So you can get those kind of newbie gains, suddenly. And it's really funny because some people, if they haven't, he's like in his 40s, if some people haven't done a lot of exercise before, they're weirdly supple, like a baby. You know, they can like. There's sometimes they haven't got the wear and tear, so you can get some really good gains quickly, and it can really improve your physical health quickly just by training and doing like the basic stuff. Not even like getting really hardcore into rolling or anything. But say you're like, I don't know, a former professional athlete, or bodybuilder, rugby player or something. You get into this, it's not necessarily going to make you more jacked. It's going to obviously help and like create kind of more mobility and obviously a different way of exercising and activate different muscle groups, but it's not necessarily going to like turn you into a different person. So I think it depends where you're starting out from, but I think mostly it's good stuff because it's exercise, it's resistance training, it's pretty kind of all encompassing, really.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. So I mean the benefits of exercise they're indisputable. So it's like getting your body moving is just going to benefit your whole life, your physical body, your outlook, even your relationships, your professional life. Like being exercising and an active person is just a good thing to do.
It's the number one thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently, number one thing for longevity in life is exercise.
There we
supposedly,
go.
Yeah.
There we go. So, and the great thing about jiu-jitsu as well, it's like a whole body thing. Yeah. So you get some people, maybe they just run all the time, or they only go to the gym to do, like 12 sets or 12 reps of something of certain exercises, and it's very like restricted. It's just very specific movements. Whereas jiu-jitsu is a full body experience. You're on the ground, you're up, you're down, you're pulling, you're pushing, you're squatting. You have to be mobile, you have to be flexible, you have to be strong. So it's a great full body approach to exercise as well. So the positive health benefits in your body working as like a full system. That is one of the things I absolutely love about jiu-jitsu. I think it's fantastic.
I agree. I think it's hard to even measure, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can measure stuff when you go to the gym. You can measure your gains, like literally, like
squatting. Yeah,
your squat. Your max rep lift, even like measuring your biceps and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people do that. So you can get down to quite like a accurate metric on like improvement, progress. But jiu-jitsu, it's hard, isn't it? Because it kind of like happens as a byproduct over time. So how do you think it changes your physique, or has changed your physique, if it has at all, since training, or even if how it maintains the way your body wants to feel?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it kind of gets to, you see the benefits and then it kind of levels off a little bit, and then your physique kind of just takes a certain state, a certain amount of muscle mass, a certain amount of body fat, and it kind of levels out at that. I think if I doubled the amount of jiu-jitsu I was doing a week, for example, I think I would lose a lot of body fat, because you have those, like, we do the 30 minutes of rolling at the end, which is like quite consistent but quite intense, and
not much rest as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I think my physique is kind of leveled out. I've started to like lift weights on top of jiu-jitsu as well, just because that comes with all its added benefits too. You get a little bit stronger.
I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, in terms of jiu-jitsu, my kind of understanding, my family always laughed because I was always very, very uncoordinated when I was growing up. Yeah, especially as a teenager.
It's hard to believe, man.
Oh, really? That is.
I mean, you're good at this.
So. That's good to hear, Si, because it was funny.
You hide it well.
Yeah, I used to like bump off doorways and stuff going through. Right. And, I grew like quite quickly as well. So I was all uncoordinated, but jiu-jitsu has really helped my proprioception. So
it does, doesn't it?
Control my body.
You can't. It has to happen. Yeah. There's certain things which are like non-negotiables, and it has to happen, and that's one of them. Like you naturally improve your coordination, so you feel like more body awareness.
Oh, massively.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, isn't it? I think you're right in terms of like a plateau of physicality for years, and it also depends what you do when you're training. So like how you train and what game you've got. Game can be quite a vague term, but like what you do on the mat. So say you're on your back a lot and your legs are in the air. So say you're a smaller person, maybe kind of longer legs, and you're naturally like being a bit more kind of a guard like player, maybe even a bit more submissive, not trying to get on top of someone, not trying to be too like head first kind of wrestly. Then you're going to develop a little bit of different body type or like benefits, maybe hip mobility, a bit more flexibility, like stronger legs, but not necessarily upper body. So I was like that for a long time, like probably a good decade. Barely passed guard until I was like purple belt. Even now, I'm like not that great at it. But yeah, like it took me a while to consciously go, right, I need to get on top and play a different, more physical type of game. And when you do that, your body does change, because you're squeezing more resistant, staying on your feet more. And then when I started judo as well, that helped a lot as well, just to build that upper body strength. But I think you can go through years and years of jiu-jitsu. I know you can go through years of it, and your body can like just kind of hit that homeostasis of like what it needs to do. And then if you change and adapt to the way you're training, and then maybe add some body weight stuff, calisthenics or strength training, then it will suddenly jump up. And I think also there's a point where like diet just kicks in, where like you can only do so much until you just like fix your diet or eat more, and then it's just going to go up. So I think for a long time I was just like at a certain weight and a certain strength, and I just wasn't eating enough. And a friend of mine, friend of mine, said, "You don't eat enough." I was like, "Oh, I think I do." And then I realized, no, I don't. So like, as soon as you just start like changing habits around jiu-jitsu, sleep more, like, I don't drink alcohol anymore. So like just kind of changing things, suddenly your body will like adapt to it as well. So it's interesting over like a long period of time, the physical benefits can change. They can be great, then they plateau, and then you can get big like gains, and then that kind of thing, and then you get injured and you can't train for 3 months, and suddenly you've like shriveled away. And that's bad when that happens.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that and not being able to train, I think as we're saying, obviously there's lots of benefits we're saying, but then there are also drawbacks. And we were discussing earlier, sometimes it's very common for people to start jiu-jitsu and then become obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and then it becomes all that they do. So they train maybe 6-7 days a week. Their community is in jiu-jitsu. They're researching when they get home. Their whole social media is filled with martial arts, and then they get injured. And they get a bad injury and they have to take months off. And I know a close friend of mine, he dislocated his knees, and he really, really struggled not being able to do martial arts. Yeah. He's has been a martial artist since he was a young child. But when he dislocated his knees, he had to just take months off, and he really had a bit of an identity crisis.
That's the big one. The identity crisis is exactly how I'd describe it as well.
And I think it's how do you manage that? How do you relate to that? How do you maybe not stop that from happening, I suppose, because
you can't really. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff, but let's stick to this physical stuff, because we're getting to mental, aren't we? So physically, like I don't know. I used to subscribe to the whole an injury will happen, so just get used to it. But they don't have to happen at all. I got injured a lot starting out because I just wasn't training very sensibly. And I was just approaching training as just like throwing my body onto the mat, rolling with whoever, and not really looking after my body very well. And probably just like rolling really hard and not even realizing it, but also not eating very well, not sleeping very well, going out at the weekend, training hungover, all that stuff. So you can do things to try and prevent injuries by just like lifestyle stuff. I honestly think lifting weights or body weight stuff does really help, because just having that body armor, a little bit more mass and a bit more strength strengthens your joints and everything. That can help a lot. Flexible stuff, yoga, that kind of thing. So you can keep doing that stuff to supplement jiu-jitsu, which will help. But in terms of like getting injured, I've had a few. I've had a shoulder reconstructive surgery because it kept popping out, and then I tore my labrum. I've had 2 knee surgeries. And the hard thing is just staying engaged, because it's very easy. It's like, I don't know about you, but there's always a small part of me that doesn't want to train. There's always that like lazy part of me that would rather be at home playing video games or watching TV or just hanging out with like family and stuff, because it's hard what we do. So I think the main thing is to not let that part of you just overtake once you're injured, because it's very easy to, because 1 week can turn into 2 weeks, can turn into 3 weeks of not training, because you're like, phew, now I deserve a rest because I'm injured. But then it gets so much harder to come back. So I think it's, I like to try to encourage people. There's always something you can do, depending on the injury, because sometimes they can be really traumatic and you need time off. But if it's a minor to medium injury, a couple of weeks off, but there's usually things you can do, whether it's we've got a weights area and stuff here, and a lot of the reason why we did that is so people can come here and do rehab, and I don't want people to feel like they just can't turn up to class when they're injured, so they can come here and do a little bit of work on the side, do a rehab, knee stuff, shoulder stuff, so at least they're still engaged, and then watch class, take notes, maybe do a couple of drills, then set out. Because I know some clubs might be like, if you're not doing the full class, you're not allowed to do the whole class if you're just doing bits and bobs. But like, I'm perfectly happy for people if they're injured to just drill a bit, sit out, work out a bit, come back in, drill a bit, watch, be engaged. So I think just staying kind of involved and active as well makes a big difference. I had shoulder surgery, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago now, but I was very after that, the surgeon was very insistent that I don't do anything with the shoulder. It was in the sling for 6 weeks and it's completely frozen, and that had a really bad repercussions. So I should have been active within a few days, really. As painful as it was, when I eventually saw a physio, they said, I wish you were here within a week to just get it moving, get the muscles active again. So I think just keeping active makes a big difference, and then it will kind of kick in the psychological differences as well, the benefits. So and talking about like what the pitfalls or negative sides of like physical health and jiu-jitsu is the stuff we've been talking about. I think just doing too much, not approaching it in a sensible way. Like, I think it's important to have your boundaries basically in life in general, but especially in jiu-jitsu, because often we just get kind of sucked into it and we just do whatever we're told, and even if that means like doing round after round with much heavier people. But I think being sensible and having your boundaries and being good at communicating will really help your body in the long term. I'm not going to do a second roll in a row. I'm not going to roll with that person. They're just too big for me. It's fine. With respect, I'll find someone else. Warming up properly. If you're suddenly rolling and you haven't done a warm up, saying I'd rather go and just do a few warm ups in the corner just so I feel ready to roll, even if it's just to get you rid of some anxiety before rolling. So there's loads of things I think you can do to help like prevent these kind of accidents from happening. And if, even like big things, like if you feel like your club is not very safe, look for a different one. Like looking after yourself basically is really important, because it's very easy just to put your hands in other people, put yourself in other people's hands, coaches and clubs, and assume they've got everything perfectly mapped out, but chances are they don't. So just kind of looking after yourself and making sure that you know your limits, but that takes some conscious mindfulness and effort. So I get it when people just kind of go blindly, but yeah, it's not good when people get hurt when they didn't have to be.
So setting clear boundaries for yourself and like with other people as well. And then on top of that, doing the supplemental stuff, like a bit of strength exercise, cleaning up your diet, trying to make sure you have enough rest, and not getting too caught up in the pressures of turning up really regularly. I don't know if you get this. It'd be interesting, because I don't get it anymore, obviously, because I run the club, so I'm here anyway. But when I was like at your stage, it was like white, blue, purple belt, I felt a lot of pressure to turn up a certain amount of times per week. Pressure I'd put on myself, but also pressure, like invisible pressure from other people, because you get like this FOMO, so you feel like, okay, I'll go Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, maybe a Friday as well sometimes. And then if you miss the Wednesday, you're like, oh, well, what are they doing? Those guys are there, I bet that person's there. And we're really close in the skill level, but they're getting 4 this week and I'm only getting 1 because I had a holiday. And, and that can really mess with you, which we can get onto in the mental health stuff. But do you feel like that sometimes if you've skipped a class that you feel like, okay, I'm not going to be as good? You're going to fall behind.
Which is crazy, right? Because it's only like a day.
Exactly. It's one class, but and then sometimes I do come to classes and I learn something that is just so important. I'm like, oh god, that is fantastic, and it really improves my game. But yeah, for sure. And it's so hard because there's no like set amount of times you kind of should turn up. I think it's quite individual. I know John Danaher, but with his like professional athletes, he wants them to train every single day, like the B team and the death squad and stuff. And then I think a lot of people will take that example and then think, oh, I should train every single day as well. But then they forget that they're professional athletes, and also they maybe have some extra substances to help them. And,
definitely helps.
But it's just if you're working like a normal job and you have a family and stuff, then that's just not it's not sustainable, and you can't do that consistently, and then people do get injured and stuff as well. So I aim for about 3 times per week. I don't always hit that, but at the moment that's what I'm doing because I can be consistent with it, and I still find a lot of pleasure in it as well. I think it's important for me anyway to do things consistently, to enjoy them. I don't want to kind of sicken myself with it. But what do you think is like the optimal?
Oh man, it depends. It's a funny. I remember my first class. I was like, I asked someone at the club, who was probably like a pub at the time, how many times do you think I should train a week? And I was boxing at the time. I was doing like 2 sessions a week boxing. I was like, okay, I'm going to do both. And then they were like, usually 1 is not enough. 2 will maintain. 3 will improve. So I was like, right, okay, I have to do 3 times a week so we can get better at this thing. And I'm already boxing twice a week. This is going to kill me. I think it depends. Completely. If you've got the time, great, and the money as well. Because it's very easy to assume you can afford to do like multiple times a week, but we have like a tiered membership for a reason. If you can only afford 1 a week, get the 1 a week membership. And I have faith that this is such a kind of beneficial, brilliant sport that you will want to do it more often anyway. I have the confidence in the club and the sport, so I think people will upgrade to get to do more, because it is a very complex, difficult sport with a really steep learning curve. So like, yes, the more the better, but it all depends what you're capable, what you can sustain. It's all that sustainability for me. So if you can only do 1 a week because you've got other responsibilities, work and family, 1 a week is fine, because you're still going to slowly learn. You're not going to literally forget it by next Monday. 2 a week is great to start with, but I think I usually tell people don't do too much to start with, because a lot of people like dive straight in head first. Oh, unlimited membership, I'm gonna be here 6 days a week. And you're probably not going to sustain that. And that's another thing with like the physical health. What can you sustain physically? If you're 21 and you've just finished uni and you've got all the time in the world and you've got a little bit of money to spend on it, fine. Turn up 7 days a week. Just be really sensible about it. Don't kill yourself. If you're in your 30s or 40s starting out 6 days a week, suddenly from doing nothing is probably going to injure you. So it's really important as well. And also what else you do around it. So I know people here who do other sports, and they could be quite difficult sports. So if you're adding this on top of like really serious weightlifting or serious rugby, rock climbing, competitive, other martial arts, then you're suddenly adding loads on top. So even if you're in your prime physically, that might be too much. You could overload yourself. So it all depends what your capacity is.
That's so interesting. It's like that balance between consistency and intensity. Because I've heard some people call them like shooting stars. When you'll have people come in, they'll be like, I'm going to train 6 days a week. They'll go really, really hard and then just burn out, and then they never see them again because they just went too hard at the start. And
I get it. It's intoxicating.
Yeah, it is.
Especially for a certain type of person who is kind of physically and mentally prepared for it. Because some people aren't and some people are. So if you get into this like sport, and it's just it kind of like floats your boat, and you're like physically you can keep up, mentally you love it, and you're now like absorbing all the content and lifestyle that goes with it. It can really be seductive, which is great. I do think it can change people's lives, but then it might be difficult to sustain. So then after 6 months or a year, this is why you get a lot of like blue belts quitting, because a lot of times by the time someone's got a blue belt, they're kind of like, oh god, I need a break. It's been like 18 months to 2 years of hard graft, and I don't blame them for then suddenly going, oh right, I need a break. And then that 1 month break can suddenly turn into, I don't want to go back because it's been too long and I feel like I'm going to be rubbish. So it all kind of depends. Like what I think it's best to try and keep things with longevity and as a target anyway. So I do try and warn people, and I've noticed they're here for the 6th day in a row. I'm not going to say, well done bro, 6 days in a row, you must be so hardcore with this. I usually say like, is it sensible to come here 6 days in a row? Like, I love seeing you here, but like, be careful, because I can see you're knackered. Yeah. And also, like, as a coach, like, it's, I think, important for me to monitor like people's focus and attention. So this is a great sport for like developing your attention span and focus, because obviously that's just like, we're at war with everything around us. Is just trying to like limit and deplete our attention, like, in terms of technology and stuff. So it's great for that, but often I'll see people who are just knackered and they're not really paying attention, and even enrolling, I can see they're kind of not focusing on it. And that's when usually you'll get hurt. It's not necessarily because of an environmental thing or because of like a dangerous thing that's happening. Often it's simply just lack of focus in the moment. and just not being kind of aware of what's happening, not being aware of bumping into other people. So, you know, if you're feeling tired, like I like it when people say, I took a couple of days off because I just felt I needed it and I feel refreshed. I'm like, good, that means you're actually thinking about it, you know.
That's so true, like the safety aspect of it as well. It's that, you might step back or you might fall on someone or just do, not execute a technique properly. And it's not just you as well. It's like you might hurt your training partner as well, who came in fresh as a daisy and then...
because people don't really notice they'll think about like the environment that you're training in, because they're all different. Because we talked about it last time, we've got pillars and pads everywhere. And there was that like kind of rule. Is that still all right? We're still going because we hit 25 minutes.
Yeah, still recording.
We still good?
Yeah,
still flashing. Okay. So so in terms of like safety and environment, like there used to be one of these many rules of jiu-jitsu that there's a hierarchy on the mats. So a lot of gyms still do it, and I did it until recently, that like if you're a higher belt, you get priority on the mats, because if people roll into you, they should move away.
Yeah.
And that's still going to happen to a degree, but I don't really believe in it anymore, because why should you as a black belt have hierarchy over two white belts? I used to say because they've probably taken longer to get to a certain position. It's more complicated exchange of movements, and you know, they're kind of working on stuff in the moment, so you don't want to disturb them, and you white belts probably don't know what you're doing, so just shuffle over and you can just recalibrate in any position. You're not going to know any better. But that's not really fair, really. So here I say there's no hierarchy. I simply say, if you roll into another pair, you move. It's as simple as that. If they roll into you, they should move. So you think about like the zones you were in beforehand, because sometimes people are really good with that, trying to stay into a zone and very conscious of it. And sometimes you'll get a pair who have started all the way over there, ended up over there, and then they're over there. Yeah. And you think that you should move, you know, because you're smashing into other people. It's not their fault that you can't control where you are, because suddenly you're jumping up, and often it means that they're not conceding. Like that means there's two people that are not conceding positions. So it's getting really competitive, because they pop up and neither wants to pull guard again. So it turns into a wrestling exchange or a judo exchange. Like,
they can be wars. Like
I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love like hard training stuff, but you just have to be really careful with other people. Yeah. So often that happens, and people and you just got like, a lot of people don't realize that's happening. So they start training and they're like, oh, what's going on? Why are there like so many people around me and people bumping into me? Because you don't see that in the waiver. You know, like if someone bumps into you when you're unprepared, that's your fault. Like, so you have to be really careful with that. So I don't believe in the hierarchy and more things. Just everyone should just have common sense, you know, just move around, just try to and unfortunately it's just the way it is. You keep resetting, but that happens in competition anyway. You go off the mat all the time and you have to reset and come back in. So it's just the part of the sport. Unfortunately, we don't have like a football field to train on. If only we did, but then it'd be too difficult to conduct a class. I need a microphone and a stage.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's just one of those things you just have to be conscious of, I suppose. And that's interesting, because that is always what I've been told and understood, that the lower belts make way for the higher belts. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid on that one as well until recently, until I had my own place, and I was like, yeah, of course there's times where I'm rolling with someone and people bump into me and I look at them and they shuffle over. I'm like, cool, but it has to go both ways. You got to compromise sometimes. You know, it's just more equal that way, isn't it? That's cool.
So yeah, let's talk about mental health.
Nice.
Because I don't want to just talk about physical stuff. So we've covered some decent stuff on physical. Obviously, we've been going forever about that, like strength and physicality and fitness.
And diet as well. I was thinking, could be a whole episode.
Yeah. You know, and yeah, like I think I'm definitely up for going into more detail of a lot of this stuff. But I'm conscious and injuries and like longevity. Like I've been training. This will be my 15th year of training. So you know, I like to think I've got some decent insight in how to keep this going for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, competing as well, not at a crazy level or anything, but yeah, it's not easy. But then with mental health, so in terms of pros and cons, because this, you know, we could talk for quite a while about this. What I want to do is talk about, is it stopped? I'm still going?
Still going, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, okay, good. Right, so in terms of mental health, what I want to do is talk about it less so in the kind of anecdotal, this is a great stress reliever, this will build your confidence, this will make you friends. Like, that's good stuff. But I think because we both are into mental health, we both learn about it, read about psychology, counselling, therapy, I think it's nice for us to maybe use a model and go a little bit deeper on what are the kind of psychological needs we need, and does jiu-jitsu help you meet those things? So in terms of mental health, I wanted to bring up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, although it might get a little bit academic, but hey, we can just kind of do a bit of bro therapy because we're sitting in a gym and we're talking about counselling modalities. But because you read about this stuff in your spare time, which is great. I've studied it doing a counselling course.
What did you do and why did you do that?
I did a certificate in counselling. I did it over the lockdown. So one of the big reasons was because I needed something to do. Because I was looking at the place and I couldn't do any jiu-jitsu or anything. So I did it in like the height of lockdown, started a course. It took 15 months. And why I did it, because I want to get into mental health eventually. I can't do this forever. My body's just going to break apart. So I'd like to be able to add that string to my bow and be able to hopefully help people one day as a qualified counsellor. But yeah, I've always been into, well, not always, but quite a fair few years now, been into psychology, psychotherapy, and reading around it. So I just wanted some formal training in it, basically. And I do think it's important, given what I do, is to understand that a little bit more. And it's helped no end, honestly. It changed who I am in one way. It made me like a different person in terms of like being like less judgmental of people and accepting people, and all these kind of good core values that you need to learn as a training therapist. But also it's helped me just understand people more and listen, because it was all about listening. It was a person-centered, focused one. So I know we talked about person-centered therapy before, because you've read some books on it as well, right?
Yeah, Carl Rogers.
Yeah, so he's like the godfather of person-centered therapy. So it's all about listening, not asking too many questions, not leading, not being in the driver's seat of a conversation, but listening, letting them open up, and eventually the work will be done naturally. Whereas some modalities like cognitive behavioral therapy or like psychodynamics is a lot more kind of like goal driven, short term, whereas person centered is more kind of long term, kind of opening about the relationship of the therapist and the client, and that being the core of like the work getting done and all the kind of progress. But so I think that just learning a bit about that really helps as a coach, like listening to people, being aware of people's needs more, and the kids classes. It's really helped me with the kids classes.
Really?
Yeah, just in terms of like approaching all classes, but especially the kids classes, with more positive reinforcement in mind, with like not being judgmental, not being angry with kids. Like it helps with your own self-reflection, making sure that you keep calm. If you're calm, they're calm. If you have a good energy, they'll have a good energy. If you tell them off, they're going to get grumpy, like I mentioned in the last one. So just using positive reinforcement and encouragement and unconditional positive regard is one of the big ones that we talked about. It's like this big mantra in person-centered therapy, but unconditional positive regard, like there's nothing bad about that, and unconditional non-judgment. We should start at a place like this and not judge people immediately on their appearance. It's very easy to judge people who do this sport, because we're all kind of weird, and like a real like array of people who actually want to do this sport. So it's very easy to judge them immediately. Oh, I don't want him in this gym. I don't want that. But it really helped me overcome that side of things and give people the benefit of the doubt and listen to them and try and like think, what are the needs that they have that need to be met by this, right? So that's kind of why I did it, and I loved it. And just stuff like this has made me think about this stuff more, to be able to do a podcast and talk about this stuff with a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
So in terms of needs being met, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's like anyone watching this can Google it. You'll see this like image, like a triangle, a pyramid. So at the bottom, you've got your psychological needs. So we'll quickly run through them. Psychological needs at the bottom: breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing. Right. So if you don't have food, water, or shelter, you shouldn't be doing jiu-jitsu anyway, because you need to focus on that stuff, right?
Get those sorted.
If you're turning up and because of jiu-jitsu, you're not managing to eat and you're not managing to have clothes because you can't afford it because of jiu-jitsu, then you should reprioritize what you're doing. If you're here all day and you're like, I don't have a shower at home because I don't have a home because I'm paying for my gym fees. It's like
sleeping on the mats.
Right, okay. Get your basic needs met and then turn up, right? So after that, safety and security, health, employment, property, family. Yeah, property, you don't need to have own property. And social ability. So health is a good one. So we talked about that. So it can really help your physical health. It can really like enable people if they're like quite immobile, as long as they're not crazy immobile, I do think people should try and have a base level of fitness before they even try this.
Yeah.
Be able to get up and down off the floor, say 10 times without collapsing.
Yeah.
You know, just because you're going to be getting up and down the floor like 100 times a class sometimes. So like health, it will really help. Family and social ability is good. It's definitely going to help you have to socialize. You know, try to learn how
force you to socialize.
Force you to socialize sometimes. Yeah, because you have to, don't you, right?
Sometimes when I'm coming into the gym and it's been like a long day and I don't want to talk to people, I would much prefer.
Me too, and I've got to.
You've got to take the class, yeah, and I'm like, God, right, here we go. But it's always, I never leave the gym and think, God, I shouldn't have come. Every single time, like, oh, great, I had a really nice chat with Phil or something. Or, you know, Ronan really made me laugh. Or, you know, just something valuable to take away from it. But if I wasn't like forcing myself to do it, and there's always not always, but often there's resistance. Because I mean, it's so easy now, again, just to sit in your house or flat and not socialize with people, because you can work online, you can work from home, you can just do your shopping, like even the self-service checkouts and stuff. And
man, you don't need to talk to anyone. And then, you know, we'll talk about this in another podcast, but with the rise of AI. I was like, Ross, should we talk about AI? And then I think we thought that's too big of a subject. But you know, with technology developing, we don't need to talk to anyone. So here you're forced to. I mean, you could get through a class by grunting, and people do, and not actually talking to anyone, which people do. But you're not going to get the benefits out of this if that's the way you do it. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because like I'm not a big fan of going out. Or I've got to go to a house party or whatever. I'm like, I've got to talk to like 10 other people. Whereas here I walk in and you can have 30 people and I'm conducting a class, but this has now become my comfort zone, which is weird because then like I might get anxious about socializing. But I think sometimes I've said so many words in a day, I've like hit my limit. You know, then I'm like in my overdraft. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like knackered at the end of the day and I've got to actually socialize and try not to talk about jiu-jitsu. So it can be tricky. But yeah, so I think that helps. Next one, love and belonging, right? So we're getting steeper up the mountain here in the pyramid. Love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, and a sense of connection. So goes without saying, right? A sense of connection is so important, like you said. If you just stay at home all day behind a screen, you're not going to get the real human connection. And here you are literally connected to another human physically for a long time in a weird, you know, uncomfortable, intimate, sweaty, someone sitting on your head kind of way. And again, I do think it's good because it gets us a bit more used to being tactile and not being so scared of like touching each other.
You're not made of glass as well.
I do think this helps with your immunity as well. I do think the more stuff you're exposed to, there's germs and there's all sorts of stuff going on. I do think it does help.
That's interesting.
Because you need physical and mental resilience, and this does help with physical resilience even in an immune way, but I need to ask a doctor to actually verify that. So
bro science.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily we've got a couple of doctors in here, so I'll ask them.
That's true.
So sense of connection and bonding and like that teamwork and camaraderie is so important. It can't be bought, and that's why I think Mark Zuckerberg now does jiu-jitsu. That's my theory, because you see he competed last week, right? And it was all on like social media and stuff. And you see like his post was like, I'm competing for Team Gorilla or whatever. He's not saying I'm competing because I'm great. He's saying I'm competing for a team. And you see sometimes these, in this kid's case, billionaire, but like celebrities and stuff that have kind of gone stratospheric with their I guess success, that it can get very lonely at the top. And this is the perfect thing to bring you crashing back down to earth, right?
Honestly.
Literally. And you're going to make friends, and maybe they're all like, hey Zuck, you don't really like him or whatever, but I'm sure they do. So I'm sure he's making friends by doing this, because if you're a billionaire, if you're one of the richest people on earth, how easy is it to make friends? Like real friends.
Exactly.
It's going to be pretty hard, right? But this is like an equalizer.
Yeah, 100%. And it might be like, oh, hi Zuck, ha ha ha, like kind of joking around for maybe like 10 minutes at the start. But then as soon as you were starting to train, it's like, right, this guy's just, you know, he's trying to attack me with submissions and stuff. That would go all out the window. Yeah,
because you have to respect him, and then you earn their respect. So it doesn't matter how much money they've got in the bank, because here they're not. It doesn't matter, right? They're the same as you. You're still trying to, you know, overcome each other and submit each other and stuff. So,
which speaks to something I find very satisfying in life is like, there's some things that money can't buy, and like good friends are one of them. but I think like your black belt that you have in jiu-jitsu, no, it doesn't matter how many billions of dollars Mark Zuckerberg has.
Yeah.
The only way he could get a black belt in jiu-jitsu is by years of hard work.
Let's hope.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
always those
All of a
rumors
sudden,
like the market value of a black belt is now $15,000 as long as you know the right person. But yeah, no, you're right. Ideally, yes, it should come with graft and hard work and not just that. Like what I like about judo, for example, and this will actually get us onto the next one, I think. Where are we? Is giving back to the sport, right? So self-esteem, we've kind of covered that. Top one. Oh no, sense of belonging. No, in the next one, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and a need to be a unique individual, right? So this really ties in as well. So that respect of others, you're going to learn through doing jiu-jitsu, even if you're a billionaire. And also giving back to the sport. So when you start coaching, judo does this. So you get all the red and white belts and all that other belts beyond black belt. When you've provided something, you're at service to the sport. You've run a club, you've run competitions, you've refereed, you've done whatever. And I think that's such a huge part of the sport, which often gets a little bit ignored, because giving back to the sport, and I know yes, we use the sport to try and make money so we can make a living, great, but actually trying to grow the sport makes a big difference. So then in terms of self-esteem, it gives you confidence doing this, knowing you can handle yourself and you're confident in terms of your self-defense and your ability. And achievement, self-esteem and achievement go hand in hand, right? So it goes back to what we were saying the other day about grading. Yeah. So the sense of achievement is so important for everybody, especially if someone's achieved everything financially, but feels like they've got that other need that needs to be met. And that could be support from a community, that could be a sport that they feel like they're kind of expressing themselves through, or it could be achieving grades along the way. But what do you reckon in terms of how this can help your self-esteem?
Yeah, I think, as you said, the self-confidence thing with just being physically tactile with people and knowing that, because there have been situations as a young man where I've been in there's been physical altercations, and it is I'm always so grateful that I have done martial arts in those situations, because you just feel safer, you just feel better out there. So in terms of that self-esteem, 100%.
Physically, like vanity, it's nice not to look in the mirror. It's nice to look in the mirror and not want to cry. Yep. You know? Yeah. It just is.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's not something to be taken lightly either. So we all do look in the mirror. We all do. I don't know, it's the society we live in, especially on top of social media and stuff. And I think we're more self-conscious than ever. And if people have a hard time with their self-image and stuff, and that must be hell. That must be so difficult. So 100%. The kind of just a physically active body. People, I think, find more confidence in. Yeah,
it's more appealing. It's kind of more kind of it's more, you can utilize it in more way, and also social kind of currency. Yep. So 100%. Now jiu-jitsu is cool. It wasn't that cool before, but now Tom Hardy and all this stuff. So it has some social currency, which really helps with confidence, as long as it doesn't turn into ego and narcissism and stuff. Yep. So this can go the other way, where it's I am valuable because I'm a fighter. Yeah. I am more important than you because I have cauliflower ears and I know how to dominate another human. That can get into the toxic side of things. Exactly. But in terms of confidence socially and interest, you'll just be more interesting if you do it to other people. You've got something to say you do. Yep. Because if you just go, what do you do with your spare time? I'm really good at binging box sets of and well, then you're the same as that other person. But if you say you do this in your spare time, even though in our little bubble it feels like everyone does it, they don't, right? Yeah. They really don't. So it's a very interesting thing to have a passion like this, and that helps your self-esteem, right? I'm an interesting person. People want to listen to me. That's massive. Yeah. Because that's a core need as well, to be heard, to be seen, Wow. Yep. So last one, before we run out of time, because it's running out, is self-actualization. That's your top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, purpose, and meaning and inner potential. So I think that's the kind of apex of this, I think, is having a purpose in life, right, is a big thing. It's huge. If you don't have any purpose or any kind of ambition, then it can be very difficult to have any kind of positive outlook. So I think this can really give you a purpose. And I think a lot of this, it kind of matches up nicely with your journey in jiu-jitsu, or at least any martial art, Because when you do it for long enough, you feel like you're good enough or you have enough knowledge to teach people. That gives you a purpose. So if I wasn't teaching, I don't know if I'd still be training, because it's teaching that gives me purpose, drive, and love for this sport. Training I love, but it's a perishable good. So I think having that purpose and a position within a community, that's your top stuff. Not that I've like solved life at all, but like that's your self-actualization. I do think you can find some self-actualization through this. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think that's a really, really sacred and deeply human thing, is for people to acquire skills, especially in their younger life, and then as they get older, pass those skills on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And I think that really hits to what it is to be at the core of what it means to be a human being. It's like passing on your skills and your knowledge to your tribe and your kind of the younger people.
Tribe's the word, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's what you're part of. Like, that's what I feel part of here. It's like a tribe of people, and I have like mentors here and people who teach me, and even like it's not even always just jiu-jitsu advice either. Sometimes like broader life advice as well, and it's you can't put a price on that. There isn't. It's like one of the most valuable things in life. That's
what I love about a room like this. It's like a forum, right? So you're just not just getting like jiu-jitsu knowledge and training. You're getting there's doctors, lawyers here. Yep. There's loads of like programmers and these.
So many programmers.
Yeah, basically like 9 out of 10 people here like know how to code, and now they're telling me about AI. It's so, like we have such interesting conversations here. So yeah, I think it's got all these kind of benefits that can really help your real core psychological needs, but then they can all tip over into dangerous territory when you become obsessed with it. And it's like, maybe we'll talk about more next time, but you know, the negative effects, because this could be your displacement. Like you could be in a bad place in life, and you just use this for your displaced anger and aggression on other people.
But then that touches on morality. That was one of those top things in self-actualization. Again, you have to deal with like the morality and the ability to sometimes like hurt people. That is what you have in jiu-jitsu. And then what it means to be like a moral being and move through the world in like a non-violent way is also like a really, really important thing. It's like, how do you, if you have these tools, which are powerful tools, like how do you use them and how do you manage that power?
Yeah, exactly. And it does give you a sense of calm as well. But you're right, because when you're like beating someone, like you're tapping out a friend, like a good friend, and you tap them out. I have, a lot of you guys are good friends of mine, and sometimes I feel bad. I barata plata, and then I see them just like, I'm like, I feel guilty because I'm your coach. Should I be doing that to you, or should I be letting you do stuff to me? I don't know. So there's that guilt that goes with it, but like dealing with it and talking about it and talking afterwards. Is that okay? You're right with that? Sorry, man, maybe I went too hard. No, I didn't. Like that's really important to diffuse this stuff. Otherwise you walk away and there's like unsaid things, and that can torment you. This can become just as stressful as it can be a stress reliever. This can be anxiety inducing, and also this can be an obsession. So we can get into that maybe next time. This can like, really, one sec. You 1 second just to finish off. Is that all right? Sure. Thanks, guys. So as I was saying, like this can become an obsession quite easily, where this, like we go back to earlier when we were like, this is your identity. If this is the only thing you do with your life, and then when it's taken away from you, because COVID was a good way of highlighting that.
Yep.
There's a lot of people who struggled through COVID, and I had personal experience of a friend, committing suicide, and as it's such a sad time, and we don't know if it's because part of it is because he couldn't do jiu-jitsu for a while. But if jiu-jitsu is like your, what's the word? If it keeps you sane, if this is like your defense mechanism, it can get taken away at any point. So, like we said, it's not therapy. We should call this Jiu-Jitsu is not therapy podcast.
Jiu-Jitsu is not.
Do you know what I mean? Like it can become too much. 100%. So it's really important to be aware of that stuff. It's brilliant, but it can also mess you up. Like every time you walk in here, it's like, I must win, otherwise I'm gonna be so stressed. I'm not gonna sleep at night. Like that is not good. Yeah. And that can easily happen, especially this day and age. It's getting so much more competitive.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m, my heart's beating. Uh-oh. What's happening?
Cycle home and stuff.
Adrenaline.
Oh God, what?
Yeah, it's too much, man. It's too much. So you got to put it into perspective, right?
Man, that was brilliant, Si. Thank you again for sitting down and sharing your knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, bit of knowledge, bit of wisdom, but still learning. But yeah, the good thing is every time we do these, it opens up more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so right. We've got heaps.
Looking forward to more. And some of the club members have said, there's a few things I'd like to ask, and you guys can talk about it, so you can start, get a bit of Q&A going on.
Awesome.
So yeah, nice stuff. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, sir.
Cheers, man.